I'm Katrina. This is So and Tare, and we have a special guest today. And I want to introduce to you Conal with Ousia Labs. Actually, I'm going to start with where we met, right? So we met at the Heirloom Expo in Ventura this
hmm
year. It was at the National Heirloom Expo. And Conal's booth and my booth were right next to each other. And so we got to talk a little bit and got intrigued with his product. And so go ahead and tell us a little bit about your
Sure.
product.
So basically, what Ousia Labs has created is the world's first sort of at-home CO2 extraction unit that's made for extracting flavors and essential oils and things like that. So, and that's the unit that you saw too. So it's like a little tiny, almost like two coffee makers together, size-wise, real small footprint, real easy to use, first of its kind.
And I know that there's similar things on the market right now, but not totally the same. Those are infusers, is that correct? And then also, how does yours differ from an
Sure.
infuser?
So, um, an infuser basically, if you think about it, the science behind it, an infuser will warm up whatever like the fat would be, so oil or butter or something like that, and then just kind of infuse it with whatever botanical you're trying to create. So if you put, let's say it's garlic powder, and you wanted to infuse oil with garlic powder, you could do that. But the difference with extraction is instead of having to just put it straight into something that's butter or like an olive oil, you actually extract the essential oil from the actual botanical, right? And so what you're left with is just the pure essential oil at the end of the process. And that you can use with anything or in anything that you're trying to create. So the world of possibilities is much larger with extraction.
So it's a raw product that you're having, not a already produced product, and you can do pretty much anything with that. So I know I had explored in conversation with you about in the homesteading community, we have lots of different plants that we grow that is not, some of them aren't commercially available, some of them, like curry leaf tree. I was thinking about that specifically because it's such a strong flavor, and you could make an oil and use it in your cooking. And there's other oils that you can get even just from your seasonings in your
Yep.
spice cabinet, or anything that you grow. So what are some of the things that people might not be thinking of, or might be common, like common things, and then things that people might not be
Yeah.
thinking of that
I
you
think
could
we're,
use this
we're
for?
always sort of we always sort of urge people to experiment with our technology. We've been selling larger systems, like our beta systems have been out for quite a while, so we've got experience with running all kinds of different things. So some of the most popular are things like lavender that you can use in all kinds of different like wellness products like soap or anything like that. But then we've been running lots of stuff for food and beverage lately too. So it's like sage, juniper, hops, rosemary. We have been doing cardamom lately. Nick's been running.
That
Yeah,
sounds
we've
wonderful.
got. I just made a cardamom sugar. Actually, Nick did that. I've got that you can put on like on the edge of a glass if you want to do a cocktail or a mocktail. He ran black pepper and got piperine, which is like this yellowy kind of. It kind of looks like it's growing in crystal form, but it's more gooey. So you can literally just stir that straight into a sauce, and you get the black pepper flavor without the spice. Kind of, it's pretty incredible. So we urge
That's
people
awesome.
to experiment with it. There are certain things that will tell them not to, like you don't want to run crushed red pepper because you'll create your own pepper spray. But that,
But
if
that
that's your
might be
goal,
your goal.
it's possible. Yeah, it'll just be a big
But you might not be in the want to
correct.
be in
You'll
the
want to
room at
go
the time,
outside for
right?
that one when you harvest. Yep. Yeah.
um, and then you guys also, it can also be used in medicinals and in soaps and lotions, stuff like that. So anything that you would buy an essential oil for, you can make at home with your own ingredients that you have trusted resources and organic resources, or from your own yard, or this person's personally, and their practices. You can use theirs and trust it a little better,
100%.
right?
I think that's why it was good for us to be at that heirloom expo because it's a whole lot of people that like to grow their own. A lot of times everything, right? Everything fresh.
Hmm.
Um, and so a lot of times too, if you're trying to grow everything on your own, you sort of lose the ability to save things for a long time. If you grow too much of one thing, you can't use it all at once. So another thing that this unit could do is help you sort of save those things too for longer. So once you run it into oil, it's viable for a year to 5 years, depending on what it is. Whereas a regular botanical or an herb might only be good on the shelf for 1 to 6 months, depending on how dry it is, etc. Yeah.
Right, right. And then, so getting back to the actual machine, we've talked about some of the uses. And the actual machine it's literally, I can't be in the picture here, it's really literally like this big. It's smaller than a microwave, and it looks very portable. You can put it away in things. And something that I noted, so my experience with essential oils is very limited. I did do extraction, distillation in organic chemistry class in college, and that, you have your little Bunsen burner, you have your distillation tube, you have this curly thing, you have that thing, you have this thing. And I mean, that's the lab setup. And then people have these setups at home that are usually much more extravagant or much bigger than that lab setup. Something that has been limiting me, besides time, from doing essential oil extracts, which I am very interested in doing, is, oh my gosh, it's a bunch of
Mhm.
equipment and I have to sit there and watch it, and where do I store it, and it's a pretty long process to actually extract any amount of
Mhm.
essential oils. So, can you speak to that comparison of your product versus the more traditional way of doing it, and also the differences between the actual end
Yeah.
product of that?
So the actual end product will probably be fairly comparable as far as like the smell and the flavor and the potency and that kind of thing. But CO2 extraction is going to be a lot more efficient, right? So, like, if you're looking at somewhere like lavender, for example, I'll keep bringing up lavender because that's the one that we like to do the most of. Also, easy to find, it's
Right.
easy to source, it's fun to run, and it smells delicious. But typically, we have about 3.8% overall yield on lavender, right? So every time you're making a run, you're getting about 3.8% yield from that. And if you do it with steam distillation, usually it's far less than 3%. So there's a big output difference for sure.
And you also have to take the water
Right,
out at the end, right?
right. And I mean, so that's another thing too. Like if we always suggest that you put dry botanicals into the unit in order to run them. That way you don't end up with water in your finished product. Some people want that, but that's definitely not. It's not the way it's made to be run, basically. Um, but yeah, so and it's also just because it's just this unit, you put the stuff into the little column, and there's um, all kinds of stuff on the website too, which we can link.
Right. I'll put the link. So I'll put the link below
I
for your
love it.
website.
Um, and then there's a video on the Indiegogo page too, which we can touch on later. But basically, like you can just put the product into the cylinder, you'll close it up, make sure it's tight, airtight, right, pressure tight, because it does use pressure. And then you'll hit a button, you'll hit a setting, probably a time. Um, and you don't have to worry about temperature or anything because what it does is just runs the CO2 through the botanical, heats it back up to a gas, then runs the CO2 as a liquid through again, and it just goes in a circle. So all the CO2 is doing all the work for you. Where if you're doing steam distillation, you got to sit there with the heat on it the entire time, be very present for, yeah,
Adjusting.
keep on working with it for however long, sometimes hours or something, right? So, depending on how much you want. Um, and this one, you can just kind of hit the button, walk away, come back, and then if you want to keep going, then you can
Right.
just exchange cylinders and continue the same process. So,
Is there a cool down time that is needed between
not
batches?
necessarily. We always suggest that you clean the unit out when, if you're going to switch between a certain, like if you do lavender and then you want to run sage, you're going to end up with some lavender flavor in your sage oil, if you know what I mean,
Mhm.
if you don't clean it out. But there's not really any downtime. Every time you harvest the actual essential oil, you're going to be releasing the pressure from the system anyway. So you'll have to repressurize the system each time. That's the only real downtime, is just having to reload it all again. But
Okay. And as you said, this runs off of CO2 cartridges. And can you tell a little bit about where that would be available? Is it readily available elsewhere? You guys do
we
subscriptions,
will, yeah.
all
I
that.
think so. If you can picture sort of a Soda Stream model, right, where they sell branded CO2 cartridges that you can put into the back of the Soda Stream, and then once you've got one of those bottles, it's just as easy as exchanging. So you could exchange it through our website. I think that they're going to be the same adapter, so it should be the same size as the Soda Stream. If you've already got something like that at home, you can totally use that. We'll also sell an adapter in case you want to purchase larger quantities of CO2 at a time.
Nice.
So if you
Nice.
want to have a 20-gallon or whatever 20-liter tank, you can have a hose that goes into the unit. You can use that for as long, that'll last you years. Nick runs 3 machines
Right.
a day on like or I want to say like a 2 or 3 liter thing, and he probably only needs to refill it once a month. So it goes really, really far.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it's
amazing.
pretty excellent.
Very cool.
And when I'm purchasing SodaStream canisters myself, I think they end up being like for it says 60 liters, but I'm using it for actual CO2. I mean, like carbonated water. Um,
Right.
they're $30, but then when you do the exchange, it's like 15. You know what I'm saying? So it's nice and cheap as well.
Right. It's a reuse,
Yeah.
recycle
Yep.
kind of thing. Awesome. Awesome. Um, and then so getting into what this product is, we've learned about what the product is. We've learned about what it can do. We learned comparatives to kind of the traditional methods, and also that it's compact and you can put it away and store
Yeah.
it. Um, we learned the ongoing cost, which is basically the CO2 cartridges. Let's talk a little bit about electricity and like about how much electricity you're expected to use. I'm assuming it's going to use a whole lot less than the stovetop method, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, so if you just picture a stove, in order to get water to heat up to the point where it's going to create steam, you got to have that. Well, if it's electric, right, you're going to have that thing red hot. And then the water needs to start boiling because
Right.
that's where the steam needs to come from. And that water needs to be boiling the entire time that the thing's trying to do its work. The cool thing with this unit is the only power that it needs is its regular AC power. And the AC power is going to be uh, it it the only three things that really need energy are the heater that turns the CO2 back into a gas, the chiller that turns it into a liquid initially, which is where the cool science is, and then the touch screen so that you can see exactly what's happening and like keep track and set it however you need it. So those are the only three things, and they only get used as long as the thing's being used. So like it's going to draw, it'll be far far less than putting something on a stovetop for sure.
Right. And you're setting it and
Correct.
forgetting it, which is
Hit a button, you walk away, and
tremendous.
then come back in a
Tremendous.
few hours, and you've got essential oil that you can do essentially anything with.
Right. So you guys founded this company. When was it? How
Yeah,
long ago
it's
was
been
it?
about 2.5 years. And initially, the
Okay.
goal was to try to create a smaller CO2 extraction unit. Like the ones that we were really familiar with and we had operated in the past were some I think it's just a brand name, but a Waters machine is something that's about like 450 to $500,000 typically. Will take up like half of my office, you know, practically, but they run 30 to 50 pounds of raw material at a time, which is great if that's what you're trying to do. But if it's just you at home, like nobody had access to CO2 extraction, right? People were blowing themselves up trying to put butane through, glass cylinders and things like that, trying to make extracts of things. And so we wanted a safer, more viable, and clean option. And so the first units that we made, which are now what we call our beta unit or the little buddy, are like a $10,000 sits on top of your like bench top, basically. That's like 2.5 feet tall, a little bit bigger footprint. And then we realized that the goal should be get the end consumer the same technology in their hands so they can do whatever they want with it and just kind of run with it. So we know there's lots of value there for sure.
Absolutely. So now you've reduced that to a smaller unit, which you guys have an Indiegogo campaign going on right now. Can you share with our audience, one, what Indiegogo is, and two, what your timing is, what your expectations are going through that
Yep.
process?
So basically, we launched it about 30 days ago. These Indiegogo campaigns operate just really similar to like a Kickstarter, if you can imagine a Kickstarter campaign. So we've got a monetary goal that we're looking for. People can basically what they're doing is they're donating to the cause, right? Because people believe in the Ousia fountain. Um, so you can donate any denomination of money. So it could be $10, it could be $50. But if you get up to right now, you got a couple of different options. 719 right now will get you a full fountain unit, only through the campaign. And there's 20 of those. I think 7 of them have been scooped up already. So there are 13 remaining, I want to say. And then we've got another 50 that are going to be $7.99 rather than the $8.99, which we had initially thought it was going to be priced at. The more we put these together, it looks like it might end up being retailed at around $1,400 in the long run. So right now, Indiegogo is a really good way to go because you can get it for so much cheaper. Like these prices won't last for long.
So basically, by helping you guys
Yeah,
get this started, it's half
correct.
price.
Yep.
And and for just for comparison, um, a really good stovetop kind of model of the older style. I mean, I've looked up ones that were, you know, 500,
Mm-hmm.
$600. And so I would say for the amount of effort that you're going to put in as a person
Yeah.
who extracts things, and the more likelihood that you're going to use it more
Yeah.
often because of its ease of use is likely. If you're deciding between two things, that's likely something that is worth looking
Yeah.
into for
Yeah. The
sure.
value is there 100%.
Yeah.
And I think once people see how easy it is to
Yeah.
use, even the ones that we've got now that we operate daily, because the only one that we've got right now of the fountain that's available isn't even a working model, right? It's we still need to build these things, which is why we're doing this campaign. Um, but even those ones that are more complicated are still super simple, and once you learn, and it's easy. So yeah, people are going to love this thing for
Yeah.
sure.
And so if people basically say yes, I would like to purchase this unit right now, what can they expect to happen over the
Yep.
next several
So
months?
this campaign will basically be wrapped up in about 30. I want to say 32 days. Um, and whatever backing we get from people is going to be is the money will remain in our hands, right? So basically, these are purchases that people are making. So we'll build out all these units that are getting ordered. Period, no matter what. So you don't have to worry about trying to get your money back or anything. We'll get you a unit, and what that looks like is
Hmm.
we're going to try and ship early next year. So probably March or April 2024. We'll get the first, I guess, allotment of these things out, and we're hoping for anywhere between 150 and 200 when they ship first. Um, but whatever gets ordered will be shipped for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. And and guys, just so you guys know, he did not ask me to do this. I actually contacted. I was on their email list. They sent out an email after the Heirloom Expo saying, you know, hey, good to see you. Here's what's going on. And I actually emailed Conal and said, you know, I'd really like to do this because I mean these guys were really nice people. I mean, I can vouch for that. We spent 3 days
Yeah, it was
right
a lot
next
of
to
work.
each other, but really nice people and really knowledgeable people. And um, I felt like I trusted them. So this is something that I did to reach out to them, and thought that although I have a somewhat small audience right now, that this could be a benefit. And you guys, if you're not interested enough to participate in this, then you can if you have friends that are into essential oils, or even if you have friends that are into using essential oils, if they know that something like this is on the market or is going to be on the market and they can get in on this kind of deal, um, forward this video to them. And again, there's going to be links in the description to everything
Yep.
for the labs. And so I would like to encourage people to spread this and help them out, because any type of at home self being becoming more self-sufficient in what you're doing at home, and you're able to make these things on your own easily, then that is I'm for that. I'm for that for sure. So that's I wanted to make that clear. Maybe I should have said at the beginning, but
Definitely
it's okay
a
to
bit
say
of
it in
an
the middle here.
empowerment here, I think. You know what I mean? Giving people the option to do it themselves. I think that's really, yeah. And
Absolutely.
I can say too, I know that
Absolutely.
if you can feel free to point people towards our newsletter too if they just want to stay in touch, that kind of thing. The more
Okay.
contact, the better. Obviously, we'd love to tell people about what we can do and what it can do for them. And also, I don't mind you making my email available as well. Like that's totally
Okay.
the more
So
visibility, the better. I feel like. So.
yeah, no, that is great. That is great. Um, okay, so coming back
Yeah.
to some of these questions here, what do you do with the solids leftovers? Like, can we use
Yeah, I mean,
them?
like, so they're gonna look almost just the same as when you put them in a lot of the time, and it's CO2 is it's efficient, but it's not. It also doesn't like totally ruin anything. Like it's it like whereas if you use butane or propane or something like that, a lot of times it'll eat the product up so much that it's just dead and you can't do anything with it. This stuff you can actually compost, or depending on what kind of things you're making, like and I'm going to go back to lavender again, but if you're making lavender soap and you want to put some like a little bit of sprinkled lavender, dry lavender on top of the soap while it's drying or while it's forming, that's a really cool aesthetic too, so that you can use that. And if you're selling it like to a local shop that's going to sell your soap that's got your branding on it, you got the actual lavender you ran sitting on top of that soap on the shelf. It looks really cool. Yeah,
That has
that
extra
kind of
value
thing.
too.
Or you, like I said, you can
Yeah.
totally use it for composting or any of that stuff, which I know is super important a lot of times for, especially for I imagine for homesteaders.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of homesteaders are making money on the side, and this is part of that. And another thing you can think of is if you do have this machine, you could rent out your
Mhm.
services to a neighbor, to somebody else who just wants, like, oh, they're just getting started in soaps, or they're just getting started in this, or man, I went to the store and I didn't see any peppermint oil, but I have peppermint.
Yep.
How do I do this? I mean, you could even have the unit and um, market yourself as someone that can help out for other people. I mean, that's another way to make some of this money back, and think creatively.
Yeah, but there's a lot of
So
different ways for the
yeah.
value prop too. Like if you think about something like vanilla, like if you get dry vanilla beans and you run those things through, and you're getting, you know,
Hmm.
3%, 4% yield on dried vanilla beans, and it's pure real vanilla oil. Like that stuff is so hard to find. Like regular McCormick vanilla extract is
Right.
not vanilla; it's synthetic vanilla flavor. So
Well, it's or the real vanilla is vanilla in
right,
alcohol.
right,
It's an extract. It's not the
right.
actual oil.
So those kind of things
Yeah.
too, like that stuff's super expensive. So you can very quickly make up the cost.
For as far as the solids go, would that be something that, as long as it was safe to feed an animal pre putting it into the machine, it's still safe to
It'd be
feed an
safe.
animal?
I think it would lose some nutritional value, of course, just because
Right.
you're sucking out a lot of the stuff. But yeah, I mean, like depending,
Right.
yeah, you could definitely use it still.
With your background experience, I guess we talked about kind of how this came about, but can you talk about your founder's experience going into this? And I know you go over this on your website and you have, nice little write up there, but just so people know, like, where you guys are
Yeah.
coming from.
So basically, like we all come from either some sort of a extraction background or some sales where we're selling some sort of extract, right? Um, and I think that kind of what I told you before, like a lot of this came from wanting to put the power into the hands of the people. Like we've been using these huge machines forever, so here's this identified gap in the market, and we all kind of put our heads together and figured out that this is what's going to work. Some of the older founders that come from different backgrounds too, but a lot of us are from Colorado. Uh, some,
So locally USA.
yep, and this is all in Colorado. It'll be assembled in Loveland, Colorado, and shipped out of the same facility. Um, yeah,
I think you said most of the parts are made in the USA.
I think yeah, most. I mean, some of them you can't get here, but as many as we
Right.
can source from the United States, then yeah.
Okay.
And then just in general, our team's got 30 plus years of botanical extraction and product manufacturing experience. Um,
So you know what you're
yeah,
talking
so
about.
putting all that together, including our engineer in Arizona, uh, it's been yeah like a labor of love for
Well,
sure.
that is awesome, and I am going to put my I am going to put my order in. I know I was hesitant with
Good.
that, and when we talked before, so you're gonna have 8 instead of 7
I
or
love it.
whatever it is.
I'm actually I've been I was in Dallas working. There's a barbecue fest in Dallas. I'm actually pitching people up while I'm down there too. Like, wow, you guys are making your own barbecue sauces. You can use these 8 things in every barbecue sauce. Like if it's cumin,
Yeah,
coriander, any of those things you can put into barbecue sauces. So I've been out there pitching, pitching, pitching. I got another one starting in Boulder tomorrow that goes through the weekend. So I'll be doing that. Um, but as soon as I get paid for
yeah,
these barbecue festivals, I'm also going to order myself a unit as well. We don't get it for free.
yeah. You don't get it for free. I love it. Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be a game changer for sure because I mean, look at how long I've wanted to do this, which is like pretty much since I bought my house 10.5 years ago. I did my edible landscaping, and I wanted to do all edible landscaping, and I've always been interested in essential oils and using them in foods mostly, but in stuff. And they're so expensive to
Yeah.
buy anyway. And then you have to be careful too when you're buying essential oils if they're actually essential oils or not, um, or or if they're extracts.
Like, and
Yeah.
what I think it's good to know too that we've got a couple of bigger name people that have been using our technology for a while. So, for example, and I don't mind dropping the name here, but doTERRA owns two of our
Hmm.
larger systems, and the way that they use it is to do sort of R&D also. So they're like looking to source the best possible botanical for what oil they're trying to make or what kind of blend they're trying to
Right.
make. So that, let's just say they know 15 different farmers that all grow the same plant. They'll source a little tiny bit of that plant from each of those farmers, run it through the system,
Hmm.
and then get that concentrate tested for potency, um, and for residuals. So if they store their stuff, their dried herbs, in a like lower quality plastic, sometimes we'll find plastic in the actual output material, which is crazy. So then
Okay.
obviously they wouldn't purchase from that farmer; they purchase from somebody else that's got better
Right.
storage techniques or something.
Right.
But
Right. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And I'm sure no, I'm sure not everybody's testing for that.
no, I mean you don't have to. It's
Yeah.
like I don't think there aren't really any guidelines for that kind of stuff. So we're identifying that there's lots of gaps in lots of markets that we can sort of penetrate.
I know a lot of my viewers, or several of my viewers, have freeze dryers, as I do myself. So freeze drying something before it goes into um, your unit, I think would be like the highest quality oil out there because you don't have any moisture in that. Is that
Yeah,
on the right
for sure.
track?
And we've definitely experimented a lot with that. Some things react better as freeze dried than others do. For example, we tried to run freeze dried raspberries the other day, and I don't know what it is, if it's just a chemical or something that reacted in the raspberries that turned into like a cake. So that didn't, but and there's just going to be some things that don't work with CO2 quite as well, but but the
Right.
majority of things will.
Right.
Um, and if you're looking at different, like as far as approaching different input materials, like I said, typically it's like dried herbs, like I said, lavender, right? But if you're going to be working with freeze dried stuff too, another really good way to put things into this unit is as a powder, right? Or like a keef of some sort.
You can fit more in too.
What's that?
You can fit more
Correct.
in
Right.
as
Right.
well.
And that way, there's more contact with the liquid CO2 as well, so it's able to pull more of the essential oils out of that product. So yeah, the
Right.
smaller granules you can get, usually the better the outcome material will be.
Right. You could get tomato oil. I don't know. Is that a thing?
Oh
Do
no,
people use that?
it could be. We know that you can't do pumpkin. We found that out. You could probably
Oh,
run pumpkin skin, but you'd have to get it like super, super dry, and I'm not sure how that looks. Most of the time,
right.
things that flour are the better things to run, or things that have already been slightly processed. Like I said, just regular black pepper, cumin,
Hmm.
coriander, those kind of things you can run.
Something I wonder about, because we talk sometimes on my channel about different animals. I have quail and chickens and
Mhm.
rabbits, and something that comes up quite often is worming, and people use pumpkin seeds as a dewormer. I have no idea if that how I have no idea what part of the pumpkin seed is used, but that would be an interesting experiment for
Yeah,
someone to
and
do.
honestly, like the way that you prepare pumpkin seeds, they do get pretty dry. I'm wondering if you couldn't run pumpkin seeds. These are all things that we're interested in learning too. If we haven't already done it, once these units go out, what we want is feedback from
Hmm.
people. Like, look what I created, and maybe we'll get you featured in one of our recipe books, or you know what I mean. Well, like when we are listing all the possible options that you can run, maybe your name will get listed in the index or something like that. So we like to share that
Right.
ability too. Yeah. It's all will always be
So
learning.
yeah, you just mentioned the recipe book, and I was just about to mention it, and you already have this started,
Yeah, there's
right?
actually one available for download on the website right now, and it's just going to get bigger. Like I I come from bartending background. My wife is a former chef. Obviously, we both don't do that right now, but so she's got some
Hmm.
recipes in the recipe book. I've got some cocktail recipes, and Nick's put some mocktail recipes up and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's available now, and it's going to keep growing. There's also um, we're putting together one that's for uh, it's not just for like essential oils, but for things that are specifically for smelling, like for like colognes, perfumes, and things like that, and different kind of blends you can make.
Mhm.
That one will be available here pretty shortly too. We're just trying to get it all dialed in. It's a little bit more complicated, but we're trying to make it as approachable as possible.
Not quite like cooking or baking.
Yeah,
Throw it in, see what happens.
yeah.
Ah.
I mean, there's a part of that. There's some to it.
So will you guys, once you have the units out and people are starting to use it, are you guys going to have a like a Facebook group that people can contribute to and ask questions and all of that? Are you going to have that kind of setup, um or something
Yeah, I
similar
don't
to
see
that?
why not. I think that once these things start shipping, we're going to have the need for to expand our team pretty quickly, um, and that's going to be one of the positions that we need filled pretty quickly. Is going to be that kind of outreach, right? We'll still do newsletters and things like that. Like I've been doing like we did summer and fall. I did a spring newsletter. So the next one that should come out is the official newsletter will be winter, and it'll be seasonal. So we'll probably do something with like cinnamon, right, or like nutmeg. Well,
Right.
we'll see.
Cloves?
What's that? Yeah,
Cloves?
clothes. I was thinking about that
Cloves.
the other day too. I've got a whole list of stuff. Uh,
Cloves is a medicinal for like gums and
okay.
toothaches. I can
Yeah.
speak. Um, yeah, and that would be like a
Yeah.
clove toothpaste you could make
I'm
too.
thinking even like how cool would it be to make ginger oil or something and then put that into the cookies and things like that,
I want ginger
right?
oil.
We made some citrus oil the other day. Like Nick made some crazy orange stuff. Um, we had lemon madeleines that Jenny made with like a lavender drizzle over them that were really, really delicious. Yeah. But so
I'm
yeah,
hungry now.
right. But we'll keep the newsletters coming out, and then as people need more information on like a more dialed, like smaller, honed in basis, especially for
Mhm.
upkeep as far as where your orders are, how far along we are in the process, and when you can expect your things. All that stuff we'll be putting out too. Like I said, the newsletter list is huge if you just want to stay in touch. Um, I'll just put you on the list, and then every time we have a newsletter sent out, you'll get one. They're not overwhelming, and I don't want to blow people up, so we're not doing. Sometimes you get on a mailing list and you get at least one a day.
Oh, trust me, I have been getting an email from like several times a day from somebody,
It's
and I'm about
crazy.
to
I'm like, no,
get rid of
yeah,
that.
you unsubscribe right away. So we want it to be exciting when we send something out. I want people to be jonesing for it. Like, man, when are we going to learn something new from the Ousia guys?
We're
You
late.
know,
Where are they?
exactly. I mean, I love that. That's why I'm also not scared to put my email address out there. I want people to ask questions. I want to be engaged with them.
And you've agreed to come on one of our lives,
Hmm.
right? On
Yep,
the
the
30th?
30th. And then maybe, yeah, you and I can just prep a little bit with what you think people might ask. And if I say I don't know to some
Yeah,
people, I can also write down these questions and then get back to that person. So, um,
absolutely. And we can always put that in the discussion in the in the comments of that same video so that if it's shared around, people can
yeah,
see the answers to that as well. So that'll be exciting, and I'm hoping that the comments that'll be on this video on YouTube, people ask your questions here, and we'll probably wait until the live to answer some of those, maybe, unless you feel like
I'm
jumping
down. I
in.
mean, that
But
sounds good. I'll write them down and be ready.
yeah, and so he has a little bit of preparation time to ask any other questions for that, but that will happen on the 30th. So 6 p.m. Pacific time. What time your
So
time?
it'll be 7
Seven.
Colorado Mountain Time.
7.
Yeah.
Right. And that will be on the 30th, Monday the 30th. Well, I'm excited about this. Is there anything else you want to share about your product before we sign
I
off?
don't think so. I do think that it needs to be known that right, and like I said this before, right now is like going to be the best time to get one of these on order. Is going to be very, very definitely the best price you're going to be able to get this thing at, and the first, up to 200 machines is what we're going to send in the first round, and the next round of machines probably won't be ready for another like 6 months or something after that. So like timing is
Now's the
yeah,
time.
it's now is the time, and you'll be a part of a revolution. So. It's gonna be awesome.
And then how long is the Indiegogo campaign? So how long is that pricing
Mhm.
true for?
31 days left. A real big, sort of like small goal is we want to get to. We're at almost 20% of our goal, but I think what happens is a lot of times people will wait until the last like 3 4 days, and then we'll
Right.
see a big spike. But if we can get to 33% on Indiegogo, uh, then Indiegogo will start. also advertising for us to try to help us get to our goal.
Oh, they
Small
don't do that
goal
until
too,
then.
which means that we need to get there quicker than yeah.
Right. So basically until like the 14th, let's say, of November, 14th,
Yeah.
15th. So by the 14th is when he needs us in.
Shoot, you could mark it for the first, though. You know, you can mark it for tomorrow. I'd be
All
happy to.
right. So basically this is a Indiegogo thing that is happening now, and if you get in on it right now, you're going to get a half price machine. It's it's about the same, maybe a little bit more expensive, about the same as the traditional extraction method, and it is more efficient and will take you less time because it's literally press a button and walk away. And I like that. I like that a
That's
lot.
fantastic.
Thank you for joining us, and I'm hoping people get the information. I'll put down in the description
Okay.
below. I'll put your email below, and then also if people want to tune in on Monday the 30th, then they will have a chance to ask you questions directly, and it'll be
Love
awesome.
it. Looking forward
Thanks
to it.
for making the time to stop by.
Absolutely. Good to see you
Good to
again.
see you. Thank you.
Absolutely.